I began to ask myself a question every day, and it's, how are you viewing God today, Geoff? And I had to begin to ask myself that question because I noticed that some of my thoughts about God from time to time aren't actually rooted in truth. And if unchecked, those thoughts begin to take root, and they begin to affect every other truth that I have about Him and myself. You see, foundations, they're key in building a home, right? If we don't build on a solid foundation, everything else will be off. And it's the same for our walk with the Lord. If we don't have a solid foundation that's built on truths, every other truth we have about Him could be off. And Jesus spoke about foundations in Matthew 7, where He said, anyone who hears my words and does them is like a man who builds his house on a bedrock. When the rains come and the floodwaters rise and the wind beats against the house, it'll stand firm because it's built on solid rock. But a guy who doesn't do and follow my teachings is like a foolish man who builds his house on a sand. And when the rains come and the floodwaters rise and the wind beats, his house will be completely destroyed. There's this saying within the Christian culture that what you believe about God is the single most important thing in the world. And I do firmly believe that. I also believe that what follows is the importance of how you view yourself. And here's the thing though, is that those views have to come from the Lord. So if your view of the Lord is a negative one, like He's angry, He's disappointed in me, He loves me but He doesn't like me, or He's just sitting around waiting for me to mess up, then your view of yourself is going to be a negative one as well. That you're worthless, that you don't feel comfortable in your own skin because you're filthy, that you're never going to change. What a huge disappointment you must be to God. I lived that way as a Christian for 10 years. I just had this mindset that God didn't love me, or He loved me but He didn't like me. My foundation was cracked from years of pain, things I didn't work out with the Lord. I just started this back and forth. I wanted to go to God, but I couldn't because He must be wickedly disappointed in me. So because He's disappointed in me, I hated myself. And because I hated myself, I couldn't see anything good in me or in others. So I just decided to live in anger and depression, anxiety, and I tried to find peace in darkness through addiction. I had this thought too that if I went to God at this point, He was bound to tell me how mad at me He was. He was bound to yell at me. He's bound to say something like, Geoff, I'm so disappointed in you. Wow, you're so filthy. I don't know what I'm gonna do with you. And so every time I'd try to go to Him, I'd be crippled by that fear with every attempt. And so I just thought, what's the point? I might as well just hide in the disappointment of the Lord and just hide myself from everyone else. And so I started trying to find that peace again in dark things, alcoholism, pornography, video games, binge watching TV. I tried to find peace every other way except in Jesus. And living this way for years almost cost me everything. I almost lost my wife and my kids. But the amazing thing is that even though that's the view I had about God, God isn't any of those things. And over the next year and a half during that time, He really began to show me what He was really like and how I was seen and known in the kingdom. And He did it really gently too. Romans 12:2 says, let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. And that's what He did. He used to have this nasty chair. It was this armchair with embroidered red flowers on it. It was a white chair with embroidered red flowers on it. And I'd sit there in that chair and put my feet up against the wall. And I'd just sit there expecting him to come during my times of prayer and reading, and expecting him to like root out every single negative that I had about myself and about him. It was just one of the sweetest times that I'd ever had. It was hugely enjoyable. All right, so begin to ask yourself these questions. Ask yourself how you view God, right? Is he a gracious father? You know, is he a mystical creator beyond our reach? Is he an evil taskmaster waiting for you to mess up, you know? Is your view of God grounded in truth, you know? And then ask yourself, how do I see myself? My beloved child? Just an evolved chimp? You know, a sin-filled inconvenience? You know, is your view of yourself grounded in the truth? You know, and if these areas aren't founded in the truth, take some time to ask the Lord to renew your mind and your thinking in this area. Rebuild and repair those foundations. You know, trust me when I say that this process is hugely enjoyable for you and for the Father, and I highly recommend it. You know, he so deeply delights in you and so desperately wants you to know and experience that delight. You know, after all, he's the creator of the universe, and he sent his son to die on a cross for you so that way he could have his dream back. And that dream is you. It was as if he was saying, I'd rather die than be without you.